not saying I'm advocating for that. I'm saying that was validated for them and they got their freedom from it. We have to know when we are victims. We have to know when we are not to be blamed, and we often blame ourselves because white supremacy is hypnosis, and capitalism is very, as Eric B was saying.
Sorry, can you say that one more time? What's say that one more time for us?
Well, white supremacy is very hypnosis. And then as Eric B was saying, he's not in a sunken place, but that's what capitalism does. And I think if we just focus on events, we're only going to focus on racism. Mm-hmm. And I think it would it's a dishonor to our ancestors to just focus on racism. We have to attack both. And I believe capitalism and racism is what we're talking about. You can't have freedom while being exploited. And we live in this capitalistic society that tells us, well, I can be part of that 1%. I can be part of that 1%. Let me just keep on hustling. And we start being individualistic. And that's a flaw. That's one of our many things that we have to work on, but it's not too hard. I think us as a culture can become collective. But when we adopt the idea of capitalism, we are now separating ourselves from each other because it's let me get mine, let me get mine, let me get mine. And I think if we attack both, we will be good. Our sister Asada Shakur, who's now somewhere in Cuba, she said to be free, you have to be acutely aware of being a slave. And we have to know exactly where we are. We have to know exactly who our enemy is. And our enemy is not ourselves. Our enemy is not each other. Our enemy is white supremacy. And if we only focus on events, and what I mean by events is if the cops got arrested, we'll probably start celebrating. That's a problem. We can't celebrate. that's us focusing on one event. If our sister Breonna Taylor got justice, we will start celebrating, and we'll say that we've grown. When Barack Obama got in, we celebrated, but that was an event. We have to break down structures. We have to break down systems. Mm-hmm. You can't build a foundation on sand. You can't build it on water. So every time we try to build on a system that's not meant for us, like Rashida and my brother Classic said, Black Wall Street. Well, that's what happens when we build on land that's not ours. So you have to destroy these systems. You have to destroy whole structures and then rebuild. It's kind of like chopping off a branch of a tree instead of uprooting that tree. You have to get rid of that current tree, plant new seeds that are correct, and then move forward. But you can't just cut down branches of a flawed tree, of a crooked tree. You can't reform jail. You can't reform capitalism. You have to get rid of these systems that are based on exploitation and then plant a whole new one that is equal. And if we love to say, oh, well, the Constitution is our rights. Well, the Constitution is that system that I'm talking about that's flawed because we weren't considered humans. So we can't keep going back to the Constitution when we weren't considered beings. We literally weren't considered humans. So we can't rely on a Constitution that wasn't built on freedom for all. It was only built on freedom for landowners and white men. So if we focus on the bigger picture, which I think we all are, that's why I love this forum. So I thank KCBZ for this opportunity for all of these collective minds to get together. I was watching and I'll be brief. I was watching a YouTube video. It was called The Black Discussion of 1973. You had Kwame Ture, you had Angela Davis, you had all of these people, about 9 or 12 Black people coming in, and it's similar to this. We got out our differences, we got out our objectives, and we just said exactly what we need to do. And I think this is so important. And me and Classic at Situations and Circumstance, we that's our goal. It's just to give you the situation and see how we can respond to it that's beneficial to all of us. And then right after is Freedom Flow. And he gives us that smooth transition after such a heavy load that we just unpacked. So again, I agree with Eric,
Huh.
and I agree with my sister Rashida about militancy. We have to keep going. We cannot, how they were on our necks, we have to be on their necks. We have to be on their necks. And if that is nonviolent, that's nonviolent. If it's violent, it's violent. But when we so wrapped around philosophies, I think that holds us back. Philosophy like nonviolence or violence, but we can use these philosophies as tactics when they're necessary.
Yes.
Um, and that's
I
what I love
love I
about Dr.
love
King.
that. If I could just repeat that,
Yeah.
use these philosophies as tactics. What happens when we do that is we don't divide.
Right.
So
Yep.
often what happens is we, some of us say, well, hey, you know what? The only way we're going to get further is if we war and we beat on something, if we get physical. And then
Yeah.
someone else will say, no, that's not the right way. We need to get into politics and change it from within the system.
Yeah.
Some call that, what do you call that? That's, I'm forgetting the word, the nonviolent, that's the civil disobedience, right? Where we try to change the system from within. And then others will say, well, hey, we got, so the reality without just a laundry list and all these different ways is that all of these ways are important if we're
Right.
using them as tactics as opposed to the end to be all, right? Then it becomes part of this bigger plan to make things happen a different way. We
Yeah.
look at the value and all of the difference that we have as a people. I so love that you said that. That's real huge,
Stick out.
Julius. That's huge.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Anthony, I'm gonna steal from the mic from you for a second. Um,
Yeah.
just to speak to what Julia said, and like I said, we'll reiterate this throughout the night for whatever time frame we're here. If you were to listen to this station for a month, 30 days straight, you would hear so many different voices of power. As Julia said, you can go from situation to circumstance who unpacks these details so heavy, and then it goes into freedom flow with repertoire that just places it on a different platform, and then after that it goes into adorable earth angel that takes you to a level of spirituality and understanding how this stuff is in alignment with the universe, and it continues on all the way. Saturdays on you have Arian, who's in on the call right now, comes in and talks about financial planning and how to invest in real estate and own property and build wealth. You have your spiritual levels coming on every Sunday. I mean, it's a lot. It's a lot of different stuff happening throughout the week and a lot of points of views, which is why it was important for me to bring us here today, because there's writers, there's authors, there's so much talent at this station alone. Not even to mention how much talent we have in the community, but just at this station alone, and even in the support, those that support us from even Rashida here, who is supporting us by supporting Natalie and supporting us, always being here and giving voices. And she knows websites. She can, like, we have gifts here, right? And so there's so much that we can do that we don't have to look so far to accomplish a goal. We don't have to look like, oh, how do we make this move happen? Because it's in our immediate circles. If we start to pull on the real resources that we truly have right here. I see. I'm gonna pass this next one. This brother's tapping in from New York, and I don't know how long he'll be on with us this evening. But I appreciate, this is one of my mentors. Don't know if he's gonna keep his camera on or off, but definitely one of my spiritual and mental advisors. Donald Hertz is in the building, so I see his hand up. So we're gonna pass it to you, Mr. Hertz.
Hey, what's going on, family? How you guys doing this evening?
All right.
Right.
What's up, Donald?
What's going on, man? It's been a long time.
Yeah, man.
Yeah.
Good to hear your voice. It really
Yes,
is.
sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Just wish it was under
Yeah.
different circumstances, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I've been listening in. I didn't really know what to expect. Out here in New York right now, we kind of going through it. This pandemic started us off in the direction that we've been under lockdown for I mean severe, tight lockdown for quite some time. So when this thing hit us, with the death of brother George Floyd, it definitely caused some pain, and at a deep level. Um, I have a young son, and I've always thought about what it means to be out in the streets, dealing with cops, protecting your brothers, making sure that everybody makes it home safe, and also too making sure that folks also too can walk with their head up, back, spine straight, you know, and dealing with the power that these cops think that they have and wield over your life, as you go about just being a regular citizen, and growing up with that type of violence, it teaches you to deal with fear. It teaches you to mobilize under fear, and it teaches you that that you can act. You have a choice. The violence is coming regardless. You have a choice to act. And I mean, and I've heard that I'm hearing that people are saying that we have to remember that our ancestors struggled, and we have to remember that we are struggling today. The struggle changes though. It looks different. We have black media that's out here speaking for us right now. A lot of people don't really talk about that, but they're humanizing us and conveying to people, the day-to-day struggles, the microaggressions, the barbecue Becky's and all this other kind of stuff that's going on, and just making sure that people are aware of it. And as Will Smith said recently, and I like this quote. He was basically saying that racism, is not increasing; it's being filmed. And so, that's also too another way of activism, is that that we are sharing our experiences. People can no longer say that it's in our heads. People can no longer say to us things like, uh, obviously you guys must have done something. He must have did something wrong. Those kinds of things are being erased. People are taking lawsuits and filing claims against the police. That's another way of fighting this thing back. People are winning lawsuits. That's the language that cities and governments understand. They may not want to publicly acknowledge or openly admonish these officers, but when they have to pay $5 million, $10 million, $30 million a year for
Mm-hmm.
policies that are affecting these cities, they might say one thing behind the camera, but you better believe 2-3 years afterwards, these officers are being shipped off some other place, and so they're feeling it. They understand that they must do something because it's a financial burden that's being placed on these cities as a result of this type of activism. Now, it may not necessarily come with a camera. It may not always be, broadcasted and publicized, but it's happening, and we need to make sure that while we're counting our losses, that we are also counting our gains. We're making some headway here. It's a fight. You get knocked down, you get punched in the mouth, but that's what it is, and we took one, we took a devastating body shot on this one, but we've been fighting for 400 years. And it's going to be a fight. The Constitution may not have been written for us or about us, but we paid our dues. Our ancestors died in this soil. They fought wars for this country, and whether or not they want us here or not, what I'm saying, it really don't matter. We're here. 400 years they've been trying to burn us, loot us, hang us, deny us, mistreat us, steal from us, take from us. Any promise that they've given to us, they've taken back. It doesn't matter. We are just as much a part of this country, and this country is just as much a part of us and we deserve everything that we are fighting for, and that's why we will get it and we will win.
I like where you going. I like where you going with that. And just, I just want to throw this out there. Of course, that was Donald Hurts. And of course, when we say we've been fighting and doing this for 400, 500 years, I just want to make sure that to our listeners, when we're saying that, we're speaking specifically of what have happened or what has happened to those who were brought over at that particular time, not to be confused with the fact that there were already Africans here prior to any of those, any so-called slave ship, any of those Portuguese guys who came over and raped and pillaged. Those rapist cracker guys, Columbus, and you hear Julius smiling because I didn't tell I was waiting on you to say cracker, but I said, but we clearly
they say
we had
cracker
already
quite
been
often on situation and circumstance, just to
we say cracker,
be
cracker. You
clear.
remember, but everybody, and just
Hey,
FYI, everybody, we
consider
don't
the
consider
fact, consider the
everybody a cracker.
thank you. Consider the fact that we're not on situation and circumstance. Do you mind clarifying y'all use of the term cracker?
Yes.
Thank
So
you.
considering you're not on our show, Situation and Circumstance, where we do use the word cracker, what's very interesting is a really good friend of mine, or from my perspective, Paul, he was one of our, he's non-Black, and he was one of our guests at that time. And I remember when he was talking to us about white privilege, and frankly just had so much extreme knowledge to drop on that. And he was one of the ones that we said, that's not a cracker. So when we say cracker, we're really talking about oppressors who happen to be Caucasian American. If you're Caucasian American and you are also an oppressor of our people, then we calling you a cracker. And to be honest, like I feel like I should have had to explain that, only because cracker sounds nowhere close to the names that we've been given. Porch monkey. Now that's a hell of a name to give somebody and their people. Cracker, on the other hand, is something I eat with my chili, but anyway, for sake of where we are in this show, if you hear that mention, you probably won't hear it unless it's I or Julius. But if you do, we are using that term to explain individuals who are oppressive, racist, believe in white supremacy, and have that colonial superiority influence and complex, et cetera, et cetera, ... And so thank you, Eric. I do have to remember where I'm at or what show we're at.
Check this though. The term cracker actually, people don't even realize that originally fell to a group of Floridian Caucasians who called themselves crackers, and it was because it's actually a group of people. They are referred to as crackers. They will refer to themselves as
writing
crackers.
that down. I'm looking that up.
And
so you saying, and what do you?
And so the use of the term basically kind of just it grew to describe, they would basically describe a group of people, and it just the name kind of stuck as people moved around, and they applied it to other folks who weren't necessarily belong to that group of people who called themselves crackers, but there was an actual group of people called crackers in Florida.
Oh, I don't know if that make me feel better or worse. I feel better having the knowledge, but now I'm like, well, anyway, I reserve to look that up and learn a little bit more about that, because I absolutely did not know that. And thank you, and also thank you for sharing a little bit with us about we're calling in from different parts of the country here, and the one thing that doesn't seem to matter about that is wherever you're at in this country and you have a certain allotment of melanin and certain phenotypes, like your nose is a little bit wider than others and your lips are a little bit bigger than some, you tend to be in that category of those who are extremely upset and enraged and and frankly hurt, disappointed, and we can go on forever about not only George Floyd, but every one of us who came before that. And I just wonder, and I know the listeners won't be able to see this, and I'll give you an idea, but I wonder if you're on this screen and you have felt the sting of a police officer directly related to your race or your ethnic background. I just want to see your hands if you've had an incident. And if you haven't, I don't want you to feel like, well, I gotta raise my hand or I'm not in the black club. But yeah, because you don't want to be in the club because of that if you can help.
That's right. Exactly.
Yeah, and so I see at least 90% of us on here have been there, and of course, you know, I don't know if this was a panel of all of another particular culture, even if that was Caucasian American. I don't know if they may have raised their hand too and said, "Hey, we've all been through," but certainly in this case, yeah, it's an overwhelming amount. Welcome. I see Will Sapp joining us with a really interesting background in the back. Don't look at that screen too long; you might get hypnotized.
I just want to jump in real quick on you, Anthony. As you announce, I
Yeah.
see as we have people joining us, we have Kales, which is the voice from Hands Up. Kales, the Gospel Show in the morning. We have EDL in the building from Generation X, and we have Will Sapp from Generation X. Rashida, one of our biggest supporters. Arian Lawrence from Mad Wealth. I see Dion, one of our big supporters there as well. Randy from Freedom Flow. Just a reminder, what we're doing is raising your hand when you're ready to say something. That way, if you wonder, like, oh, I want to jump in. For those that have just come in, if you want to jump in or say something, just raise your hand and we'll hit you up. And I did see Randy's hand. It's been up for a minute. Back at you, Anthony.
All right, and I see Peace. What Julius has left. He says that's my co-host of Situation and Circumstance every Tuesday, right before Freedom Flow at 7:15. He says peace and love to everyone. Please protect your mental and emotional health. We are all we got. We cannot let up. We won't let up. We are our brother's keeper. Stay up and have a great night. And then he says Africa right after that, spelled with a K, not a C. And so next, let's go to
Is Rashida, is your hand up, Rashida, too?
Rashida.
Okay, so I saw Randy, hand's been up, and then Rashida's hand was after that.
No, I
Okay.
just wanted to take a second to comment on Julius's message, and it is very important that the African Americans in our community do understand that what the toll that this is taking on your mental health and your emotional health, and acknowledge that and try your best to protect yourself. Please understand, in our community, we don't put enough weight on the mental toll of everything that happens to us in our community. So we have to start having the dialogue about mental health. And so as you're going through this time, please detach when you need to, tap in when you need to, but be very careful and protective of your mental space. That was all.
Thanks for that.
And Rashida brings up an excellent point. First of all, if you're African American, Pan African, Black, Negro, etc., whatever, if you are in that category, you likely have PTSD anyway, post-traumatic stress syndrome. Because if you are someone who has fought and been inside of a war, and that war is still affecting you, it's a traumatic experience. You have post-traumatic stress syndrome. That's why you get in your car and worry about your rear view and who's following you. That's why you walk into a store and you're not sure that person may be watching you, they may not. Everyone's not considering that when they go into a store. And so I won't go far with that, but I really appreciate you mentioning that, Rashida. It's very important that you take in consideration your mental state, because we naturally have one that starts from when we're very little, and it grows. And so I want to go to, before I go to Randy, someone just sent me a text and said, are we okay, or is everyone okay in the Bay due to the earthquake? Did anybody, and we're all in different parts of did anybody feel anything? Or yeah, so I didn't, Rashida? He just
I
sent it
think
like
it was
1
towards,
minute ago.
was it Run Minute? Because I know they had one in Southern Cal early this morning. Is
And
that
that's
the
where he's
one they're
calling from, Los
referencing?
Angeles. Maybe that's what he's references. He asked, "Were we okay?" But he is calling from Los Angeles, so that
Yeah,
might
they
be
had one in
associated.
Southern California area this morning or around earlier,
Oh,
sometime earlier today.
well, certainly sending lots of prayers and love, and hopefully everybody is all okay there. Now I'm wanting to call my mom. So, all right. And so, yeah, we're going to go to Randy Fortes of Freedom Flow. And once again, as Eric said, if you want to jump in, please do, show your hand, and we'll go ahead and click on that. A lot of wonderful people on here today. Randy.
There we go. All right. Thank you so much. I actually have to be fairly brief. Playing dad this week, and I have my daughter, and but I just wanted to piggyback on some of the things that Julius was saying, and maybe share the poem if that's where we wind up. One of the things was he was talking about the system and how, like, it was way back in the past, and Einstein said you cannot solve a problem with the very thinking that was used to create it. And I feel as if like there's so many systems still being used of the old system that, like, it's obviously not obsolete yet, and it's because something else needs to happen. Something else needs to be designed, and which makes it so difficult because it's so well rooted, so deeply rooted. There was other talk about using our fee as tactics, and a great person at that was Gandhi. There was an example of where the British government was taking rights to salt or make salt. So he did this pilgrimage where he walked with a whole bunch of people just to make salt. And it's the principle of the effort that made such an impact. And I feel that his thinking was so beautiful because he was always above the game. Like he understood that oppression is checkers, and he was playing chess the whole time. So that's that. And I'll leave you with the poem, if that'll be okay. Anthony, you good? We get a thumbs up on that.
Well, let's do this. Unless you're getting ready to leave, which I hope you're not, because we certainly want to keep your spirit with us. I want to make sure that we give a few other people a chance to say a few things. But I absolutely want to. I'm excited to actually hear the poem.
He's tapping out. He's tapping out.
I have to get going because I have my daughter this week.
Okay, well. Okay, yeah. No, you don't have to tell us why. Give us the poem. First of all, this is Randy from Freedom Flow. Comes on every Tuesday at what time?
Every Tuesday at right after you, man. I believe it's at 9 o'clock.
9 o'clock. I wasn't sure if it was 8:45 or 9 o'clock. This is Freedom Flow. Comes on right after Situation and Circumstance on KCBZradio.com. Go ahead and give us that spoken word, huh?
Nice. This is also on my channel, my YouTube channel under Randy Fortes, and it's called The Great Divide. Upon the separate side stretches wide a great divide. Neglected over time, let the generations blind. Sacred was the blood racing through the nation's heart, circulating hurt and hatred, breaking them apart, because we're murdering each other, growing further from ourselves, deserting our own brothers like their mother's someone else, wondering the hunger why no one could ever help, left with empty stomachs numb from love we never felt. But could it be religion, the famine from division, the bliss of tunnel vision once forgiven in submission, the 1% with billions owning all the stock decisions, starved the rest of prisons left without a pot to piss in, lost from crack addiction, communities lacking building, seeking unity with truancy from half the children, schools that seem desegregated, keeping fools miseducated, student loans dedicated, control through regulation, the youth forsaken, make a diagnosis to degrade them, take 2 of these a day, then blame it on the medication, leaving their achievements and dreams on trails of dust as parents losing trust from the failure to adjust, tearing them from cherishing. She questions why'd I marry him, festering embarrassment, the lack of love she shares with him, lesser by comparison to who he meets with fairer skin, news of where he's been, then pretty soon the marriage ends. Hesitant with future lovers, lonely, bitter at each other, sexually escaped but too afraid of being smothered, loathing just as friends for the child's benefit, holding sentiments within but never intimate again. Upon a separate side stretches wide a great divide, neglected over time to leave the generations blind. See, sacred was the blood racing through the nation's heart, but it was circulating hurt and hatred, breaking them apart because we're murdering each other, growing further from ourselves, deserting our own brothers like their mother someone else. I wonder in the hunger hunger, why no one could ever help, cause I was left with an empty stomach, numb from love I never felt.
Wow.
Well,
Wow, 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 wow.
what,
You see the hands in the air for
I'm
that.
trying to say something that's not a cuss word. Well, yeah. Everybody is muted, so you might can only hear my clapping, but multiply that towards some. And hey, Randy, I really want to thank you for being part of this. The energy that you have that surrounds what you exude is always felt, even if you say nothing. And so the fact that we get to be around that energy and hear you say something is really appreciated. And KCBZ Radio is lucky to have the likes of you.
No
And
doubt.
so I won't hold you. I know you're probably going to get your little one and everything, but you be safe out there because you dark enough to get mistaken. So you be careful and you be safe too. All right. Much
Peace.
love to you, brother.
Blessings. Bless. Thank you.
And yeah,
Marcellus.
I see a longtime friend, childhood friend, Mr. Carpenter. Thank you for joining us as well. EDL, I see that on the screen. So hopefully, okay. Thank you for being with us as well. I have a question that I want to pose. Is
Before you do, just to jump in, Marcellus has had his hands up for a minute, so you might want to address something before you that not irrelevant to your question. It's been up for a minute.
You mean that white hand on the blue is when somebody is raising their okay,
Yes,
gotcha.
man.
You know, they got the white man telling you when it's okay to cross the street. He comes on the screen. It's just so much of that, and I just didn't know. Hey, some of these are jokes. Marcellus, my
So,
man, haven't known him for that long, but he is certainly eloquent in speech, and the amount of, or rather the percentage that I do know about you is certainly that of a philanthropist and someone who wants to see things get better. And so talk to us, man. What's up?
Definitely. I really appreciate you having me, and just being on this platform, being able to see everyone here. So you started off this conversation just asking how we're doing, right?
that's right.
I'll start by saying that I'm hurt. I'm I feel the anger and the pain, and I think that those feelings are valid, but that's not what I'm focusing on. I mean, I'm working through that, right? And on the contrary, in this moment, I'm carrying positivity, and I'm carrying gratitude. Seeing this panel on Zoom of all these amazing faces, I'm really appreciative to see and speak with all of you here. I'm here to share my voice, but I'm here to listen to each and every one of you, and your voice, because your voice matters. So with that, I'd like to go into just why I'm carrying this positivity and gratitude and optimism. It's in a time where we're shown that we can't have hope, that we shouldn't have hope, that we should be hopeless. After decades and centuries of just being mistreated and showing that we don't, that we can't make progress and can't be treated as equal. I think now is the time to have hope, and now is the time to continue to look forward and what we can do in action. In my opinion, right now, leadership and understanding are both very crucial right now. And a lot of that understanding will come through leadership. We don't have a great example of leadership that is carrying us forward right now. And we all have our feelings, and we're expressing it in different ways. I think when we're able to unify, with the direction and centralize that sense of purpose, we're so much more powerful than we think. And just racism and that concept and that word, I want to talk about that for a second. It's foolish. Its definition, it is foolish to think that one is superior to another based on the pigment of their skin, and it goes much deeper than that. But as humans, as people, we aren't born with those thoughts and those beliefs. It's conditioned, it's trained, and so what needs to be done is to have that unconditioned and retrained. And it's not our job, it's not. However, the job is falling upon us to get it done because no one else is doing it. And we have to keep moving forward, as difficult as it is, as tolling and taxing as it is on our health, on our mental health, on people have lives, people are going through the struggle every day, just trying to get by and survive, take care of their families, everything that they're doing. And then on top of that, to go out and do the work that we shouldn't have to do in the first place to make sure that we can have justice and be treated equally and fairly in this society, is a whole nother job on top of that. So it's a lot of work, but the work must be done. The work is being done. And I see these faces on this call. I see people just whether it's in the media or in the communities, who are pushing forward in a direction of just sharing resources, doing something to direct that anger into something actionable and specific. And I am appreciative that I am seeing that, and that I'm just keeping my eye on that progress, and trying to really just instill and spread hope, and
Now, when
a
you
forward
say
direction.
when you say I well, so much in what you said I appreciate, but specifically, um, when we say we appreciate certain direction, we appreciate certain help. When I think about that, you and we have a mutual friend, right? That this is how we met, through a mutual friend, Jeremy, who on sight would be believed to be Caucasian. And he along with others, all of the friends, all of the non-Black friends that I happen to have, well, they've been out there marching, and they've been out there with their signs. And I'm wondering, I'd like to pose a question to anybody who might want to answer this, but one of the things I've said for quite some time is and some have disagreed with me, and that's okay. But I've said, well, we live in a country where we're about 6%, right? So this country is 70% white. So I hear people say that the only way, well, excuse me, supposedly, according to the census. So that could be, I see some heads shaking like, no, it's not. And we'll get we'll get to you on that. But at least from the census of, I don't know if that's 2018 or 16 or 4 years ago, 16, the country was 70% white, 6% Black, et cetera, et cetera. And my question the reason I'm bringing that up is, every friend that I have that's non-Black, I don't have to ask them to go out and protest. This is already part of who they are. And I wonder if I could pose the question, what what do we what do we want from, first of all, if you have white friends, all of us may not, but what do we want from our white friends? What do we expect from them? What do we want them to do? What do we want them to know? Is there something for them to do or know? Any of those questions. And again, I do see a hand up right here, so we're going to go to EDL first. Yeah, what is the expectation there, and specifically about our white friends, not just a random, yeah. Um, and so EDL, and if you can tell me, I don't know what EDL is exactly. You don't have to tell me if it's a secret or
It's
or code,
ADL.
but if you want to, you can.
EDL, everyone deserves love. There it is.
Oh, woo, EDL in the building. Thank you for saying that.
It's actually Erica Denise Lawrence, but I do that. I do say everyone deserves love too. So I
I love
believe in
that.
that. I really do. But to
Yes.
answer your question, in the midst of all the pain of seeing a live lynching on TV, my heart is broken into 1,000 pieces. Like, I really feel like I'm on the verge of hopelessness when it comes to the black community, my family, and the struggle here. I'm very, very aware of what the struggle is. And I've always drawn strength from the fact that we're better than whatever's being thrown against us. But seeing what happened to George Floyd shocked the shit out of me. I was truly, truly shocked. This is after Oscar Grant. This is after, so many people around here that we know that lost their lives to police. This is after my uncle lost his life to the police in DC. Um, I've been getting a lot of DMs from my non black friends, and they have been so supportive. And I can tell that it's not pretense. Some come with questions, but mostly it's support. And the first thing they say is, I have no idea how you have been feeling like this whole time, but I feel terrible, and I know that I don't understand what it's like to be you in this country, but I'm here to support, and I'm here to do anything I can to make things better. I got to tell you, in my 50 years, I've never heard any of that from any other protest or life that was lost. It's something about this one that's special and specific. And now that the door is open to my non-white friends, I want to say that we don't expect anything from you except support and space to heal from our history. One. Two, please educate yourself as to what American history is. If you don't know at this point that American history is Black history, then I don't know what to tell you. But we get a chance to tell our story. And please listen, educate yourself. I'm not going to help you get educated because I learned about white history in school. I didn't learn Black history in school. They was teaching us about Columbus and all this other shit. So that part. Three, don't try to be an ally. Actions speak louder than words. And when you get educated on something and a black person does take the time to let you know how they feel, if you taking it personal, you got to go back to square one and look in the mirror. You ain't ready.
Ooh, say it to
We
him.
just
Say
need the
it to
ones that
him.
are ready to go.
Ah,
So we're not pulling any more punches. We're not treating you with kid gloves. We are not supporting this system anymore. Not spiritually, not mentally. And now we're physically out here in the streets letting y'all know. And guess what? We got people with us. People getting checked left and right. The hit dogs who holler can go somewhere. But the ones who really are down with the movement, we love you, we appreciate you, and we appreciate the space that you're giving us to tell our story, communicate with each other, and build our community. That's what we need to do. That's our job. Their job is to get educated and catch the hell up. Our job is to get connected and realize that our community is the strongest one. If they hadn't been suppressing us this whole time, we'd be running shit. And that's the real. That's real.
Let
That's all
me,
I gotta say
you know
about that.
what?
I'm so hot.
Talk that
So,
Gen X
What's
stuff.
so
up,
many
Anthony?
things. First of all, you know, clearly you come from that background of where your mama, somebody was using either cocoa butter or some of those, the butters, right? The Vaseline, because you sure
I'm
don't
blushing
look
now.
the age that you said. So my eyes already got big. Like,
Yes.
what? You not as
Yeah.
old as? Nah, you
Your
couldn't be.
girl will be turning 50 this year in November. Yes, full on Scorpio. This is my golden year. Absolutely.
Okay,
Yes. And I
okay.
appreciate you, brother. Thank you so much.
Oh,
You,
Thank
that's
you so
just
much for
it's
that.
just the truth. That was I had to know that before I was even able to sink into the rest of it. So thank you. And then what you're from Generation X, I think. Eric, plug the
Gen,
show. Where are
yeah,
you
you can
from?
hear
Yeah.
EDL Generation X every
Yeah.
Saturday at 1 p.m.
Yeah.
So okay, so that was just EDL. And tell me the both tell me the EDL for our listeners if they tuned into Generation X, which is on KCBZ Radio, the radio station you're currently on, and what days and tell me again the EDL.
Sat Eric, that's Saturdays at
Yeah,
1
we on
p.m., right?
Saturdays at 1.
And
Saturday at
EDL,
1.
yep, 1 p.m. And EDL stands for Erica Denise Lawrence, but everybody deserves love. And this is for my community, my brothers, my sisters, my blood, my roots. I love y'all so much. My parents are from Jamaica, you know, my parents are immigrants, but that Pan Africanism is unstoppable. And we need to use
Hey,
it to benefit ourselves, period. It's about us. We get to
yes.
fucking care about ourselves.
That's that's right.
This is it.
Now I
And that
do
I'm
see
so
us.
go ahead.
We no, we well, when you said I'm so hot, there's a couple
I
of things
am.
that came to
I'm
mind,
mad. I'm
but
mad,
that's another.
mad,
But
you know.
that's for situation and circumstance another day. We gonna invite you over. We'll talk about why you so hot. But
Uh-oh.
but and
That's
you
good.
know, and I hope you know I love seeing the laughter and the smiles, and I also am you know, and I also see where those aren't there, and I think
Yeah.
that all of that's okay. We do need some breaks. We're not going to ever have a well. I want to say ever because that means that but it's harder to have a break from the realities of what is actually happening. But we also, Rashida touched on this a little bit earlier. Like we
Yep.
do need to take some breaks, and whether that's breathing or whether that's just turning the TV off and not seeing the consistent replay of the things that are happening. What that looks like for you. Also, if you're someone who doesn't want that break and you're just kind of full steam ahead and that's working and that's what you need, then there's no judgment here. I see
Right.
a couple of hands up. I believe that Donald was up first. Before we go to Donald, I would be interested. You don't have to answer this particular question, Donald, but I would be interested, and I don't see the name under the person I wanted to ask. For some reason, everyone's name is up. I don't see hers, but I know that she does the gospel show. Raise your hand if I'm talking about you. You
Are you
do the
talking?
gospel
She
show on
she does the voicing for the gospel show. That's
The Voice
Kel's
for the
wife.
gospel
Yeah,
show. So I do want to ask
she's part of
someone
that.
to kind of share, you know, what is the spiritual direction here in lieu of the things that are going on. And I'm not saying that I'm not putting that on you like you're the only one who can answer it because you are from the gospel show. You got some God to say. I don't mean it that way. Well, part of me thought a little bit of that, but not that you're the, you know, clearly everybody on here, you know, anybody on here could answer that. So I want you to just be thinking about that, and then we'll come to you when you're ready. Just click that button. We'll come to you. In the meantime, we're going to go to Donald Hertz. Once again, you're here at kcbzradio.com, and we're talking about just the feelings right now. Just how are we, as Soul Shop would say, how are we dealing with these feelings that are inflating this balloon that's hard to handle? And so, Donald, what's up, man? What do you want to add to it?
Yeah, I work some places. I guess you can kind of say it's more like the United Nations. You know, we got folks from all over the planet. You know, who I work with. And today, wasn't really expecting this because I haven't heard a whole lot of conversation about it. But our chief transportation officer, in the middle of his meeting today, he's a Russian cat, Jewish dude from Russia. You know, he just starts talking about it. and he just basically starts talking about how, we have to be considerate and think about, what life is like right now, for our Black American colleagues, our customers, and just those around us. And it just, the one thing that's, I guess, unique about this George Floyd situation, first of all, it was filmed. That's the first thing. So you don't have to worry about secondhand communication to tell people what it was. The other thing about it is that it was clearly a murder. There was no doubt in anybody's mind that this guy was murdered in front of the camera. And the fact of the matter that you had onlookers basically talking to the police and telling this guy, what you're doing. You had the martial arts expert telling the, analyzing, you're cutting off his air and the circulation. And then you had an EMT or a firefighter basically telling him that, check his pulse, and so it was very clear what was happening. And, so the thing that I would expect from just everybody, I wouldn't even say non-Black folks, listen, this is a real human moment here. It don't even really have to be broke down into a whole, racial thing or to divide anything like that. I mean, you got to appreciate that part too. The fact of the matter is, Black folks, we've been suffering some real inhumane treatment for quite a long time. But just be human in the moment. You know what I mean? So if it was your son, what would you say? Do you find do you find the fact of the matter that it took 10 days to arrest the other officers? If that was your son, would that be appropriate? Be raw with your emotions. Speak up, say something, because the silence is not acceptable at all. That's what I would expect.
Yeah. You know what? Not only thank you for that, but and again, if you just calling in, we just Black, African American, Pan African on here, expressing how we feel in different ways, and choosing to deal with it in this way for the moment, in this moment, I should say. But I think about, I remember what Rashida said earlier about her, about being at her job, and hopefully I'm not saying this incorrectly as a paraphrase, just a bit of it, but being there and them having like this cookie cutter way of dealing with it and not even wanting to say the person's name, right? Some of the people at a job that you've been at, don't know if it's the current one, you see what I did there, but then I compare that, right, to you've just like single-handedly added to me feeling a different level of fortune. When this hit me the hardest, I had to be on a similar Zoom call to what we have right now with different people that I work with in a beautiful company called Soul Shop. We teach anti-bullying and empathy and things for children K through 8th grade. And I was late to get on the Zoom, and I finally got on the call. And when I got on the call, it was time to check in, which is what we do when we're sharing how we feel about different things, because my company makes space for that. And I went way there. Like, I wasn't just passionate. Like, I was angry and erupting and all of the things. And so I'm just realizing, well, I shouldn't say I'm just realizing, but I am recounting the realizations of how where you work has a lot to do with how you carry this pain too. The lack of someone empathizing or over empathizing for the wrong reason. I mean, just so many things can happen just while you're at work in this skin. While you're trying to deal with this thing that's so painful and so hurtful to you. And so thank you, Donald, again for continuing that share. I see that, I know we're going to go to Marcellus. I asked that. I know we also have Will Sapp with his hand up, and he hasn't had the opportunity to speak yet. And so Marcellus, if you can just keep it just to a minimal so we can get a few words from Will Sapp as well. Yeah, what's going on?
Most definitely. Yeah, so where I really see it is the anger and the pain that we are feeling comes from there being no alignment and it not coinciding with where our expectations are of how far we should be as a society, and where we actually are. Those are definitely misaligned. And, just thinking about what we can do to sort of bridge that gap. There's no excuse for ignorance. That needs to be eradicated. And however that process looks like in terms of just being aware, not being complicit, is a huge step, as well as again going back to what I was saying about understanding. Just in a general sense, when I see another person and don't place judgment on that person because I they are only who I would be if I were in their shoes, if I were in their skin. And we need to look again, like I was saying, about just how people are conditioned, what their environment is, what they're taught to believe, what the system looks like, and how we can start to restructure and change that system so that it's not perpetuated down through the generations. What does that look like? And let's start some of those conversations as to, how we can be ultimately understood, because there are people who just are turning a blind eye, who don't have the same passion and conviction and feelings about this, and they're caring about their lives business as usual. And that is being complicit. And so how do we bring that awareness, and how do we bridge together as human beings, being able to understand each other on a level and live and coexist together with each other? I think that's just an important process to look at and take into consideration in the bigger picture of everything that needs to be done.
Well, and then we have to want to live with each other to even start trying to figure out how to live with each other. If we don't even want to live with each other, then we can't figure out the how, because we don't even want to. And I think no disagreement with what you're saying. I think you're on to something, but I think that those who would otherwise rather see us not exist. Well, if you would prefer Black folks not exist, we're not going to be able to get to that point, right?
Exactly.
And I think you're onto something with that's the goal and the dream. But people have to want to coexist in order to do that. And what I'll add to that is not just, I think if Black people and white people coexisted perfectly, I think that would absolutely make it easier for everything in between the lightest white and the darkest Black, because everything's in between there. I think that would help with the other cultures. But what we often see is we see assimilation. We see someone that would rather their daughter bring home anyone that's besides a Black guy, even if they're not Caucasian. And so I think that there's something to that as well. I certainly want to, before we move to Will Sapp, who I'm very fascinated to see what Will would say. Good to see you, by the way. It's been a long time. I want to just shout out, I received a text from Alpha Phi Alpha in Southern California. They're going to, I don't know if just Southern California, and if more information comes, I'll certainly let you know. But Alpha Phi Alpha is planning a protest. And so I've asked that they send me a little bit more information so I can say where and when that will be. But Alpha Phi Alpha, thank you for being, for moving, being part of a movement. It's called a movement because you have to do things. You have to move your mouth and say stuff. You have to move your feet and march. You have to, it's a movement for a reason. And so,
let me interject on you. I'm gonna interject.
Yes.
I'm gonna hand it off to Will real quick, just to throw this out. For one, just to comment on what you both said, I don't even know if it was a matter of the white is white and the dark is dark getting along, whether that would make things easier for everyone in between. Because then we would deal with the tallest person and the shortest people fighting over powers. Or then we would be dealing with those that have 10 fingers versus 9 fingers. Or we'd be dealing with whatever. We'll find some reason to have a power shift. But I do want to make sure, and this is for us and for our listeners, to know that this is actually the first episode of the conversation, which is going to be an ongoing conversation. Tonight being the first one. And for those wondering if we're going to answer the question tonight or solve the problem tonight, that we won't be able to do. I believe we all have agendas and plans and ideas that we want to bring to the table, and I believe that is important. And I think this is the time to begin to start putting your curriculum together. And I'm speaking to everyone on this channel. I'm speaking to every listener that's a part of our KCBZ listener community, and I'm speaking to the host of KCBZ because I will be calling on each of you to take part in this particular program. We all have our own individual programs. Will Sapp from Generation X is going to come up next. We have Arian Lawrence here from Mad Wealth, and EDL from Gen X, and Julius was here from Situation Freedom. There's all kind of shows here, wonderful shows, and we all have our platforms and we carry our space. But this one is, to me, I feel like we do have to put a plan. We do have to have action. We do have to have next steps. And so tonight, because we can all say many of hosts that are part of this station are meeting each other for the first time right now on this call. And what was important to me was that the hosts and the supporters and those that are part of this station get to see the genius that I get to see individually with everybody that's involved here. And to be able to look, oh, I see my man Fleet. Oh, wait till you see this genius just jumped into the room. But, oh, my goodness, he got light just glowing on him. But anyway, when brothers see the genius that's involved here, like, we can move, we can create, we can build something. And I'm not talking about, see, Anthony and I have been soapboxing for a long time, but I'm not talking about for right now. See, I was having a conversation earlier and I was saying after we get the conviction, are we going to be like, oh, okay, cool, let's get back to normal? I'm not talking about that part. I'm saying for real, that real moment where there's somebody in this room, maybe it's Marcellus, this young brother here, or maybe it's Julius, one of these young brothers here, that's about to step up and be the person that's going to be speaking at funerals in the future. Because, see, Al had to speak at a lot of funerals before. Somebody else going to have to start stepping up. It can't be, we looking at, I told you about the Ceiling Experience, and if you didn't, you can rewind the show and check it out. But we have to begin to start putting our voices out. It's time for us to be in the role where we have somebody that can lead these people. The 60s, we still relying on them. We're still relying on them to lead us. When there's leaders in this room, like, and I've heard writings and conversations and talks and everything from everyone in this room. So let's put it into action. Okay, I'm about to pass it to Will Sapp from Generation X. After that, we're going to Kales because she hasn't been able to find the hands button, and she's going to speak. So I don't want her to get skipped because her hand's not coming up. And then we're passing it back to you, Big Ant.
Yeah, and so I thought you were passing it to Will first.
I am.
What's up,
there he
Will
is.
Sapp?
There you.
What it do, man?
Greetings.
Talk to us.
Yeah, when I first logged on, you guys were talking about crackers, and I'm still hungry. I got some cheese. I wonder if I can pass it around.
Welcome to Generation X again.
I expected that. It's the crazy part. I expected that.
Yeah, I know.
What can we expect from white people? I'm actually, honestly, I'm tired of white people. I've been tired of white people, and not because I have hate, but because they just keep playing dumb. And it's an act. And a lot of my white friends, oh, we have to stand up. We have to be allies. Don't tell me. Just do it. You don't need to tell me nothing. If you're an ally, be an ally. You don't have to tell nobody nothing. It's not even for me to know. And so get in my face. let us be. All that pull yourself up by the bootstraps, we've been doing that. We made the boots, we tied them up, and y'all keep ripping them off and burning them up. So when you come up to me and ask me, what can we do? Move. That's it. If y'all want to do something, educate your family. Take your racist uncle and talk to him in y'all dining room. But by default, I'm an optimistic pessimist, and I don't trust people. I've never trusted people. I trust myself, and so I move that way. That way, I don't have to hate nobody, because we're all too multi-layered and multi-dimensional to put trust in somebody and be like, "Oh, I trust you." That's not right. I wouldn't put that on nobody. But I will trust myself and how I respond and react to different things. But like on the real, I'm just tired. I'm wore out. Joy has been deflated. Um, I I don't really care about progress at this point. Um, this cycle that we've been talking ourselves my whole life, it ain't nothing new under the sun. And I'm just at a point where to say it out loud, I've been saying to myself, it's like, I really don't care, like about nothing right now. I don't care about anybody doing well, anybody doing bad. It's just like I'm at a point where I'm gonna breathe until I'm not breathing no more. And where I'm at, that's where I lay. And it's frustrating because these are conversations I have with myself. And I say, you don't mean that. You can do better. But at the heart of it, no, I do. And it's just like looking at TV, you see people voting in stuff against their interests, and you see people trying to stop people from progressing because of hate. All these made up constructs, all this race, it's all made up. And there's always, in this country, there's always this, pathway to whiteness. I've never wanted to be white or be in that, what they think is great. I've always walked in privilege because of my parents. But there's always just been that pathway to whiteness. And the closer you are to whiteness, the better you're supposed to be. And I'm just tired of being in that. And I just want to lay down. And I didn't really want to say anything, but, it's just, I'm just tired. I'm still trying to find my way because I'm out of, I'm out of options. I'm out of trying to find options.
My man Mahaga has a song called "All Out of Peace," and I was reminded of that song while you were speaking. And secondly, real quickly, I just want to say, I've known you a lot of years, and I've heard so much comedy from you, not because you had the lack of being serious, but I want to say that just hearing you then touched me in a different way, because I know you not only mean it, but there's a depth of pain that I could feel from what I know of you, and now hearing what you're saying at this moment.
See,
I just honor you for that, and I appreciate your truth.
That's really the scary part for me, because I'm always looking for the humor in every situation to bring somebody out of whatever pain they're dealing with. And that's how I always focus. And I don't even want to find humor. I don't even want to be in that midst. I don't want to. It's like that energy. It just feels fake, and it's just nothing. I can't produce anything that makes me want to keep going.
You know what? But that right there, what you're talking about, that is the purpose for this evening. If you remember the message and the blast that I sent out, that's what we're here for tonight. We're not here to solve the problem. The show is to begin to start building a plan or something that we can put in action as at least as a station that we can do. The show is to build a plan. It's to build some action. But tonight is for us to begin to start talking real about where are we right now, so that we can learn where. There are so many people right now that don't even know what they can do or how they should do it or where they should step in or where they should get involved. And it's through various conversations. It's like, I'm sure like everyone here, like it's been nonstop conversation after conversation after conversation after conversation. And you hear so many perspectives, but so many of us, the anger, the hurt, the time after time, and trying to come out from under this blanket that we've been under for so long, are struggling with how we deal with that. And as we create a plan, if we don't start addressing how we actually feel, what are you going to do? Like, where are you going if you don't know where you're at? You know what I'm saying? I mean, personally, how are you going to get involved if you don't know where you're at? And so, like, that's what tonight is about. It's about us actually voicing where we are at, and not necessarily solving something, although we know we're tired of the situation that continues to happen over and over. But let's just address the initial hurt. Like, we got a boo-boo. Let's put some alcohol on this hurt tonight. And then shake it off so we can get moving. But I appreciate you sharing that, Will. You went deep. You went deep.
Yeah.
Kels.
Thank you, Kels. I know you've been waiting, and I'm really excited. Well, first of all, thank you, Will, from Generation X, and that comes on every
Saturday at 1 p.m.
Yeah, when it
Saturday at 1 p.m.
It'll be on.
And of course, I'm sorry.
It'll be on when it's on.
You said it.
It come on a lot of times.
KCBZradio.com. We're gonna move to Kels. What's up? Talk to us.
Hello. How are you?
Hi. I'm pretty good.
I
Thank
got
you.
the position of being the spiritual voice because really my spirituality is kind of calm right now. But this is what I'll say with respect. So, yeah, respect everybody, respect to everyone. I want to say I'm going to make 3 quick points and then I'm going to get out. First one I want to make is a point to Brother Will.
You're already starting with your preaching methods.
I know, huh? 3 quick points and I'm going to get out.
I got 3 points.
To Brother Will, I humbly respect your position of feeling tired. I feel tired. I feel overwhelmed. And I feel disappointed. I feel angry. I never post on Facebook, but I've posted on Facebook every day, probably for the last week, just venting. And I don't know how to post like little messages. So people are getting like paragraphs and letters and 1,500 word counts. And I keep going, can I do this? Can I do this? But I'm putting it out there because I'm really frustrated by everything that's happening and that's going on. So I was thinking about it and I talked to one of my friends and I was basically saying, you know what, I'm tired of this. And all he said was pray. And I thought, wow, that's a simple concept, but yeah, like it was new to me, right? Like this idea of prayer was new to me. And I sat there and I thought, well, what can I pray for? What I need change. I need substantive change. I need something to be on the horizon that's better than what we've currently got going on. And then it was brought to me that there is a lot that's currently better than what we've got going on. Here we are. This is the 9th day. It's going into the 10th day tomorrow. By Sunday, it'll be the 12th day of protest. And people are listening. Look, we got a president so afraid. He's hiding in a bunker.
And with an 8-foot gate around the White House. He got an 8-foot gate.
That part. But hiding in, and then he's taking has the audacity to make them a mockery of the Bible and a mockery of the church by going to stand in front of it for a photo op, only to have several preachers and pastors and bishops and all these people come out and put him down as a result of it. So it makes it really something to me that says that people are starting to fight back and they're tired. Now, I'm just going to give you a scripture to go with what you said. You said there's nothing new under the sun, right? And that's true in Ecclesiastes 3:1, and I'm going to read it. But it says, to everything, there's a season, a time, and a purpose under the heaven. And he goes on for a few verses, but then he gets to verse 3 and 8, and it says, a time to love, a time to hate, a time of war, and a time of peace. So we've lived in all of those other times, and now we're internally, the United States internally is in a war against itself, and it's being split, it's being dichotomized, and it's the split is coming from the head, right? So Donald Trump, we already know that this is the enemy. He is an abuser of power. He is a pseudo demagogue. He is fake news, right? And now all of the people, and I know that we don't want to say that we could believe in white people. I get it, because I've already written my dear white people letter. Like, stop asking me dumb questions. Stop saying I'm sorry. Stop it. Stop. I don't need to hear you sorry. I don't want to know why I think race. Why did it happen? What, somebody asked me, why did it happen? Why does this happen? What the really, lady? Right? I did my dear white people. I'm done with that. That's over there. Because now I need all them good dear white people that's well intended and don't really understand to fake it till they make it. And I need them to join the cause, and I need them to recognize that injustice, in the words of Martin Luther King, injustice anywhere is injustice anywhere is injustice everywhere. Basically, I think I inverted it. Injustice everywhere is like a threat to justice anywhere. So basically, that means that everything that affects us is ultimately going to affect them. And when it affects them and when it gets into their neighborhood, they don't want to wait until that time to fight. Because they don't, and that poor white person who can't afford an education and who doesn't have money, how do you think the police look at them?
Mm-hmm.
And as soon as that man gets that knee on his neck, then suddenly they'll want to fight. But no, you should have fought when it affected the Black man. You should have fought when it affected Sandra Blair. You should have fought when it affected all of these men and women that
talk to them.
We are losing. Breonna Taylor, come on, an EMT. You really gonna go to her door and use a batarang and not even knock? So all of this, when this starts coming into their neighborhood, then they'll have a problem, right? And we don't have to look far back in history. All we got to go to is Tipper Gore. Remember that? And her and C. Dolores Tucker and their issue with rap and hip hop, but it wasn't a problem till her sons and daughters started listening to it. See, and so that's how they act. And so my mind is now telling them, no, I need you to see it from this perspective. I'm gonna need you to see it from a totally different perspective and get on board with me, because we have a war that we have to fight, that we are fighting, that has to be won. So that little Black baby right there, he's so cute, Rashida, but so that he doesn't have to go through what we're going through. And so so that's my first point. So just hold on, Will, because for me, knowing that there's nothing new under the sun means somebody has won this battle. And if they've won it, we can win it too. Point 2, I want to talk about practical solutions. And I know, Eric, we're about to cover all of them in a different section, but I want us to address practical solutions. So if I had my druthers and my wish, then this would be our vent meeting where we get it out, where we have our dear white people moments, where we have our damn is that, like, why does this always happen to Black people moment, where we have this I'm angry as hell moment. I want the milk to be on the floor, because it's on the floor. Then
there we go.
About how we gonna clean it up.
There you go.
Because it's got to be cleaned up, and we got to know that there has to be practical solutions from the head to the tail. Everybody has to play their part, and when I say head to the tail, I'm talking in a macro society, so nationwide, beginning with the government and beginning with the power of the vote, and beginning with people understanding that you have power. Case in point, Donald Trump on Monday cited or referenced 1807, the oh my God, what is it? He cited the 1807 Act to say that the military could be used. Now, dumbass. Okay, so sorry.
It's all right.
Remix for a moment, but dumbass Donald Trump actually sat up there and cited this particular act that was created in 1807, the Enforcement Act, right? And what it basically was saying was that, hey, because the United States was 31 years, relatively young after 1776, and there were still people who were spies, there were still people who were trying to usurp the government, there were people that they were afraid of at that time. So the government created this act to say, if anybody is suspected or caught of creating or ensuing violence against the United States government, then the military will be used to stop them. That's the original act. Now, since 1807, between 1807 and 1870, it was changed 3 times. And then the last time, 1870, 71, here's where it made its final changes. The first change was in 1870, and it was enacted to protect the rights of all Americans, and including those who were newly freed. First one. So the first one didn't go through. It wasn't really strong enough. Nobody was giving it any play. In between time, you got the 13th Amendment, which freed the slaves. You got the 14th Amendment, which says, here's your inalienable rights. You can have those. Then you have the 15th Amendment, which gives us the right to vote. Now, still, the South, Reconstruction, this was the era of Reconstruction, ladies and gentlemen, but the South was not paying attention, right? Because remember, in 1224, 1865, who's created? The KKK. So the KKK's sole purpose is to ruin Reconstruction and hell, wipe out all Black folks if they can, right? So there's some good white folk and some good Black folk in the Senate who say, well, no, let's just push this law. What they do is they revise the same act that Donald Trump cited in 1807, the Enforcement Act. They revise it the first time in 1870, and then they revise it 2 more times. The second and the third time was February 1871 and April 1871. The reason they enacted it or revised it is to ensure that all African Americans or Black people or colored people or former slaves were protected from the KKK. That is knowledge. And that is something that we have we have to remember that the very act that he tried to use against us was the very act that was revised to protect us and who we are. Now, that is my second point, is that we got to know our history, and we got to understand how, and I think Rashida brought it up earlier, that we have to use it to our advantage. It is our power, right? And I say this all the time, and I'm going to admit something, and y'all don't throw nothing at me, okay? But when
it would be through Zoom, how we gonna break our own stuff if we throw it.
The first Black Lives Matter movement, I'm going to tell you that I really wasn't a fan, because I thought it was disorganized. I thought it was chaotic. I thought the message was skewed and it was blurred on many different levels. And so, like the young man that writes poetry, I wrote a poem about it. And I basically said that if our lives matter, we shouldn't have to shout it out to the rest of the world. We got to turn the camera inwards first and look at ourselves to say we need to stop killing each other. But then Derek Chauvin and Tao and Young and the other guy, Anderson, the Minneapolis cops, they ruined it. And any empathy, any sympathy, any kind of like, can't we all just get along? Any kind of Rodney King feelings I was feeling were thrown out the window because of what they showed me. What Chauvin showed me in that one act is that we know our lives matter, but hell, they don't. And that's the problem. And so I think that the third thing that I'd like to see us talk about, and this could be even in the solution format, is this idea of law enforcement reform, right? There has to be reform. I did some research. So the first thing that we should know is that the Lexipol is just a standard measure that they use for all law enforcement, but it was created by CHP and a sergeant. So you're telling me that a sergeant Sorry, that sounds a little classist, huh? But you're telling me that a sergeant created this program and it suddenly becomes the entire measure for not just the United States, but for not just California, but other parts of the United States as well. Something is wrong with that, because now you have this one program, LexiPo, which now serves as a guide, but every community is not the same. And when you put one program to guide every community and people aren't using critical thought or exercising common sense and trying to figure out if this applies in this situation, then it's a snafu, right? Situation normal, all fucked up. So we have to be careful about what we are doing, and we need to police the police, but we need to police the police by using their knowledge against them, right? There needs to be law enforcement reform in the city of Oakland, ladies and gentlemen.
Look, Kels, let me just jump in just for a second. Kels, first of all, tell me when your show come on, because although I have a show on the same radio station, I'm tuning in. Tell me when you should tell us one more time. When does the show come on?
So Kale's show, I think, is actually one of the coming shows like The Conversation, and she's also the voice behind Hands Up that comes on every morning in terms of the gospel show. She gives you the announcements and things like that. But we're working on getting hers. We're getting hers launched real soon.
Before I completely pass it to you, Eric, so that hopefully we get to talk to Fleetwood. I'm hoping that's what we're gonna get to do. I just want to say two things to you. First of all, you are a woman of my spirit, because you made your 3 points, and clearly you got as much wind as I do, and so I appreciate meeting somebody else that got. I didn't know that a lot of us seen you square, and we didn't know. For those of you who are listening, we're on Zoom, right? So I seen you square, and it's like, oh, okay, all that. What's gonna come out when she talks? And like, boom, it came out.
Just go. Just join a text thread with her.
I'm gonna do that, and then briefly, one of the things.
That's my sister-in-law. I can jab if I need.
I feel like.
Can I make one more point? I promise, just one. Because I want to leave it. I do want to leave it on a high note. Okay. So we did.
Okay.
I covered my 3 points. So the last point is I want to do was law enforcement. I won't say anything else about it. But going back to the spirituality aspect, I just want to leave us with one scripture, which will basically tell us how we're going to get ahead. Because God hasn't given us, right? 2 Timothy 1:7. For God has not given us the spirit of fear, but of power, of love, and a sound mind. And if we can't carry nothing else with us, then we need to carry that, because that's why we're here. Because we know who we are, and because we know whose we are, we can do the job.
That's right.
All right.
Yes, y'all, and you don't stop, and you don't quit. We're keeping this moving. Of course, you're here at KCBZradio.com. One of the things you were, I mean, there's so much content in that, and I don't know if you're able to see the chat messages going back and forth of just appreciating everyone on here, and particularly a lot of what you said was just so much appreciated. And I just want to throw out there, because you were talking about the Constitution and different laws and stuff, I just want to remind people that, Obama implement policing reforms recommended during his administration. He recommended that, and he sent it to this is one of those things like Black people will say, to some degree, they'll say, well, hey, what exactly did he do? Not all Black people, but just saying, like, there was, and I always would say there's things that he did that he didn't broadcast out loud, because if you're going to do police reform in order for them to treat Black people right, and you're Obama and you're in the office, now, arguably, maybe you can't say, hey, Black people, I'm doing this for you. You just got to kind of sneak under the radar, because there were people there that were there to try to govern what he did. All that to say, whether you like him or don't, it's not that, I'm not having that debate with anyone, but just to say, if you have an opportunity, anyone on the panel or listening, look up, and he spoke about it about a week or so ago, a few days ago. But he said, he's urging the police chiefs to implement police reforms recommended during his administration. He already laid the plan out, so they don't have to go do anything. They don't have to do lots of research. All they got to do is finally open that mail where he was trying to put some of these things in place. Eric, please let us know what's going on with our next speaker.
Yep, I see EDL in the lineup, and I see Rashida hand up, and we're coming to you in a minute. And I know Arian is going to speak to us about how important it is for us to get our finances together. But I want to bring this brother on deck real quick, Brother Fleetwood. He's from out of state right now. This is a film director. He's done a documentary called The Cotton Pickers, which is an amazing doc. I've been rocking with this brother a long time. He's a supporter. A lot of times when you hear different guests on here that have that somewhat celebrity-ish name to it that we've interviewed, this is the brother that shot him our way. This is one of long-time true advocate and a true worker in this community. He don't let up, so I just wanted to give Fleetwood an opportunity to speak real quick. What's up, brother?
So, man, what's happening, man? I appreciate you giving me the opportunity to speak real quick. I'm down here in Phoenix, Arizona, and right quick, I represent the Cotton Pickers. That is my musical movement, my visional movement. And I just want to say 3 quick things. I got a split right here on my lip and one on the side of my head, a C. And it came from the Minneapolis Police Department. I went to college in Minneapolis, and I was up there trapping, as they call it, as I was going to college. And I definitely ran across racism up there, you know. And it was a cold thing, man. I had never seen that many mulatto people in my life. And, you know, it's just a whole different vibe up there with the Midwest thing going on. And I just had to learn how to maneuver out of the situation. And when I came back to the West Coast, I decided to get out the streets. So right now, what I just like to say is our ancestors never gave up. Even though we tired, they got tired, but they never gave up or gave in. So I got a daughter. I ain't got no choice. I ain't got no options. I can't give up, man. I can't give in. I can get tired, but I gotta keep pushing, man. And that's what it is. We got to dig and grab the spirit of our ancestors and remember what they went through. This ain't really nothing compared to what they went through on them plantations, man, to us to be able to be on this radio station right now. So we got to grab onto the spirit of our ancestors and keep pushing, baby. You feel what I'm saying? Keep pushing, cause man, can you imagine what they went through, bro? You know what I'm saying? So that's all I would just want. Anybody feeling like giving up, ain't no more options, don't even feel like that. Just remember who you are and the DNA that's within you. You understand me?
That's right.
And we come from cotton pickers, baby. I represent cotton pickers, people who never gave up or gave in, even when they wasn't getting paid. You feel me? So that's what that is right there. And the last thing I want to say is the youth is always the engine of any revolution. The OGs is the oil. Right now, the youth ain't really riding around too much. I don't know if y'all noticed, but doing all them protests and stuff, you ain't heard a lot of that trap music and a lot of that Megan Thee Stallion. You ain't heard none of that, really. You feel me? So what I'm saying is we got the youth attention now. We got to, in my opinion, we got to sit down and school the youth on police reform, school the youth how to play chess out here right now, how to move, not move in rage, but how to get to the next stage. You know what I'm saying? Everybody tired and angry, but that ain't how you move. You don't let the enemy know when you coming. He's supposed to think you're retreating when you coming. This thing is called chess, not checkers. So we got to sit down with our young, strong sisters and brothers, 17, 18, 19, 20 years old. Right now, we got their attention. They the ones out there in them streets moving and full of passion about change. You know what I'm saying? We got their attention there. So let's educate them on these laws, these policies, how to pursue them, how to organize. And we got to sit back and be the voice and the oil of the engine. You feel me? That's what I wanted to say. You know what I'm saying? And it's always a soundtrack to the revolution. It was, you know, Marvin and Curtis Mayfield and James Brown and Otis Redding. So, you know, we as organizers and activists, let's put forth some art and something, you know, to keep the momentum going. You know, within our communities, you know what I'm saying? Because that is definitely needed, you know what I'm saying? So I don't want to talk y'all to death, but we got to educate our youth, man. Right now, while we got their attention, and we cannot even think about giving up because our ancestors, that never was an option. I love y'all more than peanut butter love jelly, man. It's Fleetwood.
Oh, yeah. Oh yeah. And oh yeah,
Yes.
yes, y'all, and you don't stop.
That is.
Um, oh yeah.
It's some power
Uh
here. It's some power here. I'm trying to tell
yeah, it's
you.
power
This
here.
resides
And you
right here within your touch daily. These are the people in your immediate circle. Like these are, man, like this right
look,
here is so beautiful.
Hey,
thank
right
you
quick,
so much,
if
Fleetwood.
anybody, right quick, if anybody want to contact me, I'm in Phoenix, Arizona, but I'm from the Bay Area, though. I've been down here 4 years. I'm on Instagram, Fleetwood SF, or you can find me on Facebook, Robert Bowden. Anything I can do to support what you're doing, just let me know. It's all love, baby.
All day,
Hey,
fam.
real quick, Fleetwood, can you tell us the cotton pickers in that movement, and or I believe you said that there's a, I don't know if we said film or documentary or something like that. Can
Yes,
you
sir.
tell us where, if somebody wants to go to that, and, you know, if I look up the cotton pickers on my engine search or my search engine, I'm probably not gonna hit your what I'm trying to hit. And so, how can we make sure that we get to that? If for those of us who want to look at that documentary, the cotton pickers,
Spell
how
it
can we
for
Okay,
him.
get that?
Spell it
okay,
for him. It'll pop up first.
okay. The spelling is DA Cotton PICKS, and that's also my page on Facebook. And you go to YouTube and type in DA space Cotton space PICKS film teaser. It'll pop up. And like I said, you get in touch with me if you want to show it to the youth or just want to see the full film. I email it to you right quick. It was a story about a man, Bishop Henry Williams, picked cotton for 18 years in Mississippi, never got paid, and migrated to Oakland. He's living in Oakland right now, and his lifeline is fighting for reparations. So that's what I made it about. Was a person who never gave up or never gave in for 18 years, and even though he wasn't getting paid, and about the migration of our people. Why did blacks leave the South? Why did they leave the plantation? Because a lot of our youth don't understand why people in California got cousins in Texas and Louisiana, why people in Chicago and Detroit got cousins in Mississippi, Alabama, and why people in New York and Philly got cousins in North Carolina, South Carolina, and Florida and Georgia. So that's what the film was about, the migration of our people and a con game called sharecropping. And once again, it's spelled DA space Cotton space PICKAS.
Shout out. And I like to
Okay,
uplift us. I like to uplift us when we're doing good because we hear enough about when we ain't doing good. Talk to him. Hey, real quick. Fleet, you got
Yes,
some
sir.
distribution thing getting lined up for that too, right?
Yes, sir. I just was blessed. 2 days ago, some people contacted me and said, "Man, you are the soundtrack to the current vibe of the world."
Talk to him.
So, Empire just gave me a distribution deal.
There we go.
Even though I've been pushing like a pregnant woman, man, with the cotton pickers for the last 6 years, baby. I got a plate full of music. They ain't heard nothing. I got a song called "What If That Was Your Child." You feel me? It's a single. So we coming, man. Give me a week or two. You gonna hear it on the airways. We re-releasing the documentary film. And like I said, man, anything I can do to assist y'all or whatever, it's all good, bro. Straight up. You know what I'm saying?
Always, brother.
yeah.
Thanks,
Oh
bro.
wow.
Thanks, bro.
No doubt.
I'm looking forward to meeting you and sit down and just chopping it, just politicking with you. It's so powerful, so wonderful, and yeah. Oh wow. One thing I want to add to that, and we're gonna go to I believe Rashida had her hand up first, and then we had a couple of people right after that.
We
One
got
of the things I want to say, and
Rashida, then EDL, and then Arian. Oh, and then
okay,
I
so
saw Natalie's hand up. Natalie's hand has been up as well.
okay, so real brief. As Eric mentioned in the beginning of this show, right when he was introducing myself, been soapboxing and doing things for a while, and I remember we talked about the baton, right? And this was like me. There's a couple of people that may remember this, and just saying how some of us, when we think about who's supposed to be doing things to change what's going on right now, we can't keep waiting on like the people that were doing it in the 60s. As a matter of fact, we're supposed to be trying to make it easier for them to relax because they were the old warriors. We're supposed to be doing that stuff now. And what has happened is some people have passed the baton of change and support and activism and all that. They've passed it to the next generation. And some of us have taken that and ran with it. But a lot of times, some of us have put that in our pocket, not accepted it at all. And it's up to us to receive that baton and not only receive it and keep running with it, but while we're running with it, preparing the next person that we're going to hand that to so that this doesn't stop. We absolutely don't need it to stop. And I hear a lot of nonstop when I just heard not only from everyone on this panel, but certainly from what Fleetwood just said. When we think about our children being the future, that's not just a Whitney Houston song. That's you don't get adults without kids, and we need our kids to be prepared at a sooner age than what even some of us on this panel were prepared for. So having said that, I think we're going to Rashida next.
Rashida, then EDL, then Natalie.
Yes. Rashida?
I'm sorry, I had to unmute. I just wanted to thank Kales and Fleetwood. I was trying to come in on Kales' point because it was funny that you should bring that up, sis, because I came across that article today that was the point of focus, was Obama's police reform and what that policy did and how Trump came in and reversed everything. And I just want to encourage people, and I see Donald added us a link to that conversation, but I encourage you to read that policy because I was like one people, I consider myself, I follow politics, but a lot of things that you heard about that policy was around him demilitarizing the police. But in that reform, there were police departments that were identified that were known to have racist or white supremacist backings and doing.
Hey.
And there was a list that was governed federally. They had some type of, what was it? I wrote it down, y'all. I've been reading all day today. They had a consent decree, which made them accountable for their behavior. I'm telling y'all, read it. It will blow your mind. And I'm so happy that she said that today because that was nothing but God, girl. Because I said, that's exactly where he had me today. So this is divine intervention. And Fleetwood, you a man after my own heart because Eric B. know I love the kids. They are our future. And that is my space for me. That's how I wholeheartedly believe my contribution to my community is through the babies. So that's where I work. So I will definitely be contacting you either through Eric or my next project with the youth. But I'm so happy to hear that. And I just love y'all both. I'm so happy. But that is divine intervention because that is what I was reading about today. So y'all better look at that. If you are not familiar, click on that link and learn about the Obama police reform and how it was reversed and what it covered. That was all. I just had to jump on her back because I was like, "Ooh,
it's all good."
Most definitely, check it out. And thanks for mentioning. Thank you, Donald, for putting that in the chat, so that anyone who heard the words and wanted to, at least from the perspective of on this panel right now, can look that up. Eric, before we move to the next person, is there someone? Is there somewhere where if individuals want a little bit more information on some of the things that were said, maybe towards the end we can let them know. I don't know if they would just go to the radio station or somewhere else, but maybe later on we can give them that information so that they can tune in if they want or research some of these things because we need to research stuff in order to be able to talk about it accurately.
That's right.
Too.
That's right.
So thank you for that.
No doubt.
Next, I'm sorry, I forgot. Arian. Was Arian?
EDL.
EDL and then Arian. Okay, so I get to hear from EDL again with the young
Oh Lord.
Okay, what's up, EDL? Talk to us.
Guess what? I just want to piggyback on what and Rashida said. And look, sis, I read that article today after watching Obama's speech. So this is a cipher. It really is. And he said in his recent speech that change has to start at the local level. And he repeated that several times, and especially in reference to the reforms that he did put forth regarding the police departments everywhere and law enforcement in general. I was very comforted by that. I'm not really a big Obama fan. I just have my political, I just don't like the fact that he ran as a populist and ended up being a moderate. I'm just a little sore over that, but I had to realize that he walked into that office with his hands already tied. Those folks were in there saying how much they were going to stop him, and he was bruised and battered and scarred the whole 8 years. So I do appreciate what he could do. And I was comforted by him reminding us subtly that he did put forth that legislation and that it's still there for us. We just got to take it up on the local level and we got to get it going. Yeah. So this is our job, to connect each other, to connect with each other. We are the grandest, biggest, dopest, most talented, shining, fresh, loving, spiritual, God loving, God fearing, God made. We are indigenous. We are the roots of this earthly organism. And this is ours. We just gotta connect. That's all we have to do. That's our job. And that means roping in the youth too and let them know what's up. But we have to connect with each other, because I am so amazed that all the action and just electricity going on with all these people. Everybody has something going on. We need to connect and help each other and support each other. I swear that's our only job. Let those white folks go out there and protest for us and do all that. We got to connect with each other, communicate with each other, discover what our gifts are so that we can come together like this and make it happen. That's the fist, right?
Yeah.
And also I wanted to say,
thank you.
Oh, yeah. And I wanted to say that on the children point, I have 17-year-old twins, and my son is autistic. So the police brutality thing is a big deal for me. I'm afraid to let him out of my sight. And I think now, listening to you all, that I realized I was triggered why George Floyd's murder triggered me. It's because, man, that could have been my nephew. That could have been my son. That could have been Will Sapp's son. That could have been any one of our children, any one of our sons or daughters. And it really hit home even more. It kind of knocked off the numbness of the continuing cycle of brutality against us. And I feel like I just got shook and I'm awake now. So I just wanted to say that it's beyond urgent for us to connect with love and support for each other in our community. Let's build our community. Don't worry about the rest of them. Don't worry about it. And everything we need is there. The law is already there. Like Kel said, just know the law, know your history, know what our people built here for us. And we just got to go forward. I'm very excited to move forward. And I personally am very glad I was a part of this today. You all lifted my spirits. I was like Will Sapp. He spoke for me today. I couldn't get it out, but he spoke for all of us, I think, in a way. But I'm very, very, very encouraged, and I'm looking forward to what we can do together as a community in the future, in the now and in the future. That's it. Thank you, everyone. I gotta go make dinner.
Thank you. Yeah.
I love you all, my community. I'm gonna listen to all your shows and support every single project or anything you're doing. Just hit me for anything. Seriously.
Hey, everybody deserves love.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's EDL, right? That's EDL. Everybody deserves love. Thank you so much for bringing your heart and your energy and filling our space with what we need.
Well, I need y'all too. Yeah. So, reciprocity, and it's time for us to really, really do this for our future, our kids' future, and just restitution. So, thank you so much, Anthony. Thank you, Eric. Thank you, everyone, and I love you all.
Thank you.
Good night to you.
Thank you.
Yes. So I want to keep us moving here. I'm trying my best not to even say what I'm looking at. Will Sapp chat and what he said.
Yeah, she said Obama's hands We're tied. He said Obama's hands was chopped off when he got in there.
and we make the best chicken.
I missed that part. Yeah, that's Will.
Yeah, I was just saying. I was wondering if I was gonna say that part.
Yeah,
Like,
there we
okay,
go.
that's Will being Will right there.
No doubt.
And just real quickly, two things. Like, okay, so even with we never want to go too far out because we can all say so many different things about Obama, but all I would want to say there, without saying how much I support it or not, is that always keep in mind, lots of people didn't even know about this policy that he put in place to reform until now. And I always tell people that there's a lot of things that he did, but Obama wasn't the president of Black people; he was the president of the United States, and so he couldn't always get on there and yell out loud, "I did this for you." This is not me protecting. This is just me giving a little bit. It's all situation and circumstance on how you look at it every Tuesday. Yeah, and so
let's let Natalie's hands up, and then I want to go to Arian, and then I see Donald, I think. But I want to Natalie's hand has been up for a minute.
Okay. Natalie, tell us what you got to say. Tell us what you know.
What's happening, fam?
Hey, Nat the boss.
First off, I like to be engaging in video, but I got to give me a pass because I'm on mama duty all night, so I'm here. I'm actually going to go
supporting the next president of the United States.
Right. I'm going to go back to the beginning, Classic, when you didn't want to say, when you were talking about you and Eric's relationship in Soulfire. And I know you didn't really want to go into Soulfire, but I'm going to plug a Soulfire real quick because it's going to go into how I'm feeling today, or how I was feeling today. My longtime brothers, I love you guys so much. Soulfire keeps it red hot in the streets. You guys have always had a platform for someone to speak, and you guys have always been revolutionary in your words, and I appreciate that from the bottom, for real. Today, I'm a little bit ashamed to say that I tried to detach myself from everything. This morning, I woke up. I'm working from home. I opened my email, and it was a lot of uplifting things happening. I think God was working on my spirit because I was in a different space. I just didn't want to deal. I was at the space where I didn't want to deal. I didn't want to hear no more about it. I just wanted to go through the day and not have to hear about it anymore, right? I got an email from the corporate, and they basically attached a newsletter. It was a very nice newsletter that they are addressing to all of the non-Black associates, basically saying that your Black colleagues are going through something that you may not understand. You should ask them questions. You should be supportive. Basically talking about how your Black colleagues deal with these injustices all day long in their normal lives. And then they come to work and they compress it, and they don't always release it, but they come to work well. That was the impression that I got. And then they go home to deal with these things that you guys don't really deal with on a regular. So it made me feel like that there is some support, right? Then I got a call from my boss. He wanted to just really dive in and say, hey, if you want to talk, what do you want to talk about? He just wanted me to vent. And I literally was able to vent how I felt. And one of the things that I told him was, like, I felt like that I am not doing enough for my community at this time. You guys all know I just had a baby. He's 18 months now. Sometimes I feel like I can't get out in the way that I would like to, like I used to. Like when I was rocking with Soulfire in the streets, pounding the pavements. You know what I mean? It's that's why I'm, plugging this Soulfire thing in, because I've been around it and I've seen it, but I wasn't really woke all these years, all my life. I'll be 40 this year. I don't feel like that I was woke to what Soulfire, not just Soulfire, what every Black American has been talking about what we're dealing with, I feel like that I wasn't all the way woke. And so my sister called me this morning and she's like, are you watching the funeral? And I'm more service. I'm like, nah, you know, my son watch cartoons. I just want him to be quiet right now. I don't want to deal with that. You know, I'll tune into some highlights, whatever later. And she's like, no, you should probably watch it. You should probably watch it. It's like, yeah, okay. So I put it on and watched it. And in that 8 minutes and 46 seconds, my whole everything just changed for me in those 8 minutes. And I realized that I wasn't woke. I was crying like nonstop. I couldn't help it. And I realized I wasn't crying for George Floyd. Like I was crying for the fact that I don't feel like that I was as productive that I could have been. And I have been around so many productive people. And I feel like that maybe I hadn't been doing enough. I haven't really been doing my part. Yeah, I go out and I vote. And I was talking to one of my cousins about this too. We go out and we vote. And I'm going to be honest, sometimes I don't even know what I'm voting for. And right now we're upset. We got this crazy president, but we also voted for some of these Congress people, the judges, and all these people that are controlling the police department. And I really woke to that today. Like, man, I really need to pay attention to how I'm voting, to what I'm voting for, because you see a name and you've been here all your life and this person has been in office your whole life and you don't even really know anything about them. You just know their name. So when you go to the ballot, you're like, you just pressing their name because you see their name all the time. Right. So I really woke up today and it was a new day for me. And when Al Sharpton said, you know, they marching on Washington, yeah, I booked me a flight. If it don't happen, I'm gonna be there. If it happen, I'm gonna still be there. Whatever. Like I need to like now, because now I have a son, right? And I have to make sure that my son knows that mom tried to make everything happen for me as well. She wasn't just sitting there being lazy. But that's where I'm at with it today. Like I'm emotional about it. And it's not that I didn't know what was going on. It didn't affect me. It was just kind of like, in a way, there is a level of privilege that I felt that I had coming from the background, the family that I came from. And so realizing that that's not the case. And now I need to open myself up a little bit more.
You know, that is a powerful statement that you just made. First off, you're not alone in any form or fashion. You show complete bravery just to even speak on that. And then in these times, because people would feel like that makes them not like in a less position because they weren't what quote unquote woke, right? Whatever we use that term woke, not one of my favorite ones, except for when Harold Melvin sings it. But I personally feel like what you just said is what so many people are facing in this moment right now, and that's what makes it different. And I think that I'm honored to know that whatever it was that happened had you in a space today where you were like, I'm about to do this. And it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter what happened yesterday. Today, you're like, this is where I am. And to me, that is amazing. Like, that's dope. That's exactly that's what matters. Like, that's what we need to see happen, because that's how we change it from being just Al Sharpton on the pulpit, because it's not the same people. We have to have people waking up. We have to have new people saying, hey, I'm aware of what's happening. I'm getting involved. I'm going to pass it to you. I see you getting ready to say something. Mr. Anthony, we've been doing this a long time. I got to pass that mic. I see it.
We gotta respect it. We
gotta respect
it. And what I mean by that is, and I can't, Arian, we coming right up to you, but we gotta respect this. When I say that, I mean it this way. I mean, like, we can't continue to degrade or dog somebody out because of the lack of what they know. or the lack of what they're doing. Because we don't, because if we do that, then that's how we divide internally, right? That's how us as a people, that's how we divide internally, because, oh, you should have knew that you spoke. Oh, you ain't vote, you should have, all of that. No. This is what this platform is for. And it's very important that we honor when somebody is telling us shit. Because there's, you know how many people who are voting for the president but not voting for the local people in their community that actually makes the difference to who gets in office.
There you go.
So each step of the way, first of all, we're all ignorant to something. And each step of the way, we don't dog each other when we don't know something. We help each other grow from it. And then what ends up happening when you help somebody grow from something is you end up learning something you didn't know from helping them grow. Something you needed to remind yourself of because of what you didn't know.
Tag in.
Thank you,
I'm tagging in from you on that because you spoke about the platforms that Soulfire has provided over the years and the different things that Anthony and I have been doing over the years. But whether you was woke or not woke, who was booking the venues we was doing it in? Who was making the telephone calls to all the places we was going? Who was sending us to Vegas? Who was sending us to San Diego? Who was doing those things and putting it? So it doesn't matter exactly what you was woke to. God was using you in a place, in a way, to get his message out however it was getting out. So
and I hear that, and I think
I introduced you as Nat
for that acknowledgement.
There you go.
I just, in my feelings today, I felt like I've been around people so much and I have been so influenced. Like, why am I felt guilty for wanting to detach from this.
I hear you.
And there's millions of other people that are African American, Pan-African, that feel that same way, that aren't expressing it so that they can receive somebody depositing something in their tank. Like we doing with you, not for you, with you right now. We're depositing into each other's tanks is what this conversation is doing. That's what we're doing. If somebody else doesn't say what you just said, they might just miss the deposit.
That's right.
Right.
You know what? Another important
Don't get
thing.
me turning into chaos.
I know that was you know what? And I know I did say we would go as long as my old ass could stay awoke, and so we are. I do want to make sure that we hit on a topic that's important as we continue to build and as we go forward. One of that is the green, the finances. We can't do this without finance. We got to have finances. So every Saturday, well, no, excuse me, it's not every Saturday. It's monthly, whatever. We need to pick it up. But he's gonna be involved in this conversation. I'll tell you that much. He has a show on KCBZ where he is explaining how to generate, create, and establish financial plans for your life, for your family, how to get involved with real estate, how to I don't know, all the stuff he talking, the terminology in his words. So I'm gonna bring in Arian, AJ Love from Mad Wealth.
We can't do it without without financial literacy.
We got to have financial
literacy. That's another part of systemic racism is the lack of the financial literacy.
That's right.
Now we have somebody who can brilliantly, he's not going to tell us all the financial literacy right now, because how long would that take? But right. He is that's where, when you need to listen to that. And we all need to.
Is your mic unmute? You're not unmuted yet. There you go. There you go.
Computer I'm working on. I'm sorry.
We hear you.
Ladies and gentlemen. But first, I just want to say it's a pleasure to be here. Thank you for having me on. I want to go back to AJ, when you said, let us know how you felt about the George situation and everything. It's just it's just sad, man. It's you would think we would be in a better place by now, but all the Black people that have died, that have, been beat up by the police or whatever, it's like it's a cycle. It's like certain ones get publicized, certain ones get more exposure than others. But this is something that happens every day. You know, it's nothing new. Thank God that social media, the reason why it gets so much further now because of social media. If it wasn't for social media, this was happening before social media happened. Now it's more publicized. Now it's more in your face. Now it's more, I can't just say it's your word against mine. I can't just be like, no, that didn't happen, because I have to answer to what they're, you know, what people are videotaping and what people are showing to the media, what people are leaking on Facebook and everything. So they have to have an answer to what's going on. They can't just like deaf ears and closed eyes, you know, monkey see, monkey do, and all that stuff type of thing. Police have been, I asked myself this as a black man, and I have a 17-year-old who's about to graduate high school, about to go off to college, and we're sitting around debating what schools should we really send them to, because of the fact there's so much racism and so much hatred in America right now in most of these down south places. You know, I couldn't imagine what how I would feel if I was to get a phone call and something like that was to happen to my son. I couldn't. I just couldn't. Words couldn't explain.
Right.
So I asked myself, you know, as black people, we pay taxes. We pay the same amount. Some of us pay, you know, the working class. Some of us pay a little bit more taxes than others, but in hindsight, we pay taxes just like the white person. How come we're not being treated the same? That same taxpayer's money is paying that police officer's salary. When that police officer confronts us, he now becomes the judge. He now becomes the prosecutor. He now becomes the district attorney. He now becomes the the um, the jury. But when he approaches a white person, he's not the judge. He's not the prosecutor. He's not the district attorney. He's not the jury. He lets those rightful people do their job. So as a police officer, your job is to police the community, and we're all proven innocent until proven guilty. But as black people, it seems like when the police approach us, we're automatically guilty, and they're making that assumption instead of letting the rightful people that went to school for be a judge or went to school for be an attorney make those decisions. And I don't understand how come that's okay in America, you know, from our ancestors fighting 400 years ago, and then, you know, and we're still in the same spot. And it's good to see. I've been watching CNBC all for the last 4 or 5 days, and MSNBC and all that. It's good to see white people coming together, and then you still got the ignorant ones out there too. And like the one on the radio was talking about, you know, niggerish, and then the guy was saying, you know, you can't say that, and she just felt like she was dumbfounded, like, why can I say it? They say it, and it's like, you know, for different reasons. So,
yeah,
but it's a big problem in America, and it's not going to get any better. I mean, we can't just be they prosecuted the other 3 or other 4 or whatever it was, other cops, and it seemed like we got silent a little bit. But we still need to make noise in a political way, not tearing up our own community, because that's the wrong way we can do that. Like, we got to understand, when you're tearing up your own community, you're not doing us a service. You're doing us a disservice. You're tearing up You're tearing up the black community. You know, small businesses, black-owned businesses, black-owned, you know, or whatever the businesses are in your community, and that's the reason why a lot of, you go through Oakland. You know, I'm born and raised in Oakland, and you go through Oakland. You know, Oakland doesn't really have a major corporation as a meaning like a Best Buy or a Target or you know, those big names in the community anymore, because they're scared to come. Why? There shouldn't be no reason why Best Buy couldn't be there. There shouldn't be no reason why Target shouldn't be in there. It shouldn't be a reason that, you know, Walmart tried to go in Oakland, and then what happened? They shut down because the shrink was too high, and there's a lot of theft that goes on in there. So they pulled out, and they said it wasn't worth it. You know, now they're locking up a lot of stuff, and we're going to a lot of Walmart. but we need to get out of our way of ourselves and make sure that we have a lot of to grow our communities, to strengthen our communities, and then that becomes too with our own financial literacy with ourselves too, and promoting Black businesses, promoting and just being smart about how we spending our money and smart about how we're investing our money in different things, because the whole objective is to keep us in poverty and keep us down, keep us not knowing, keep us not educated with with the knowledge that we should have, you know, because if you it's night and day. You can go to school and in lower income areas and they're not getting the same treatment as schools in areas in certain areas, you know, at higher areas like in the suburbs and all that stuff. So and it should be the same. Like if I remember one time when I used to work for the cable company, my boss at the time was saying that his school had a fluctuation of over money. They had so much money they didn't know what to do with it, so they had to spend it, because if you don't spend it, they lose it. Why are you not taking that money into schools that's laying off teachers, or schools that need money, like in Oakland suburbs, I mean in the inner city,
right?
And putting money into those schools to keep those teachers there and put computers in those schools or whatever they need. You got kids taking, you know, since this pandemic happened, Oakland was rated one of the highest cities in Northern California that had no internet in the Black community. It's like there was no, it was for every person in the Black community. It's like one computer for every household they were saying in the Black community. And most of those communities didn't even have access to the internet. So these kids are doing their homework on a cell phone. Where when you come out to the suburb, they got tablets, they got Chrome notebooks, they got, you know, everything under the sun for them. You know, they have a plethora of money that they're burning through, you know, for, you know, just whatever. But when you're in the inner city, when you're in Oakland or in Richmond or in the lower areas, they're struggling. Why? We're all in the same city, the same state, Northern California. How come we can't move that money around? You talking about some schools talking about in Oakland few months ago, they were saying they had to lay off, you know, 20,000 teachers or whatever. Why? When you got it boggles me when I hear that teachers have to get laid off when you got so much money in other schools, but they are not allowed to take that money and shuffle it and give it to a school that needs it, and that to keep them operating and stuff. So that's a little frustrating, you know, and
it's a lot frustrating.
A lot of frustration there. For real.
And you shouldn't have to, you know, move out of the inner city to get a decent education. You know, and the school systems today, like, you know, and in general as a whole, and I'll wrap it up. I don't want to spend too much time because I do have to go to bed because I have to get up at crack of dawn. But like as a black family and as Black people as a whole, I mean, we can only teach what we know, what was taught to us. You know, and that's no fault to our parents. You know, some Black people, you know, people had were fortunate that their parents were in a different situation. They were able to teach them about financial education and how to save money and how to invest their money and how to move their money. But that's a small percentage of Black people that had that luxury. There's more of the ones that really don't know how to invest and don't know how to make their money move for them and be able to be financially literate, because the schools are not going to teach you that, especially in the inner city. They barely teach you how to balance a checkbook. So as parents, we have to educate ourselves. If you're not knowing, you don't know a lot about financial education, that we have to adopt in ourselves, so we are able to pass it on to our kids and the generation. Because the laws that are being made, and it's true, laws are written for the rich. You just got to play the game. The laws are the game is for everybody, but unfortunately, a lot of Black people are not able to play the game because, number one, we're either not taught or we're not in a position to be able to play the game, as far as financially wise, or being able to have extra money to invest to play in the game. But as we teach ourselves or learn or get financial education, so we are able to take advantage of those same loopholes that the white people are taking advantage of, and the tax breaks that they're taking advantage of. And so we're all pay the same amount of taxes and we all get the same benefits. Why let just one race get all the benefits and keep you out of something when you can learn it, figure it out, educate ourselves, have platforms like this, KBZ Radio have, with knowledge and being able to educate ourselves, so we are able out there to take advantage of situations when they do come up, with investing in different things and investing in real estate, investing in startup companies, understanding about your 401k, because a lot of people really don't know how 401ks work. If you don't really know how the stock market works, how are you going to know how your 401k works? Because your 401k is tied to the stock market,
right,
and your company.
So this is
And
what I want
when
to
does your
encourage y'all
show
to do.
actually come?
Yep, there you go. Go ahead. Same question. I'll go ahead.
What did you say?
I was going to ask, what if you know, and Eric made, when does your show come on? Because the reality is, we all, even if we're not a kid, there are adults who still need financial literacy. I just got my credit right in the last 5-6 years, so a lot of us still need that. And so, when does that come on?
It's
And
every
what's it
third.
called? And when does your show?
It's Mad Money. We had to switch it.
Mad Money.
I know it's Mad. I know it may come up as Mad Wealth, but we had to switch it a few times for reasons for me being able to get domain names and everything that was taken.
That's okay.
But it comes on every third Saturday at 10 o'clock.
10 a.m.
Okay, every third Saturday
right
10
now.
a.m.
10 a.m.
Pacific time. We got to say that.
Eastern time.
We're worldwide.
Pacific time. Yes. Yeah, that's right. That's right. Pacific time. Yeah. So
every third Saturday, 10 a.m. And that's Pacific
time. Yes.
Time.
Yes.
Thanks for sharing, Arian. Hey, we're gonna get ready to move on because we're about to close out in a second. Let's let Donald. His hand has been up for about 30 minutes or so, and we're gonna end with Donald, if that's okay, Anthony. I'm gonna pull the time clock on it for the night because we're gonna keep this thing going over and over. No,
what?
I'm saying this show is not. This is not the last conversation. That's the point.
You mean I wrote down stuff that Will and Randy and Kels and Rashida and Julius? I wrote down like two sentences from each person, and Fleetwood and Nat and Don. I mean, and I ain't gonna get to. I wrote all of this stuff.
That's a book. That ain't no 2 sentences. That's a book.
I was gonna say it quick, man.
You got a novel. Oh, you don't say nothing quick.
All right, let's pass it to. Let's pass
know me.
Let's pass it to Donald.
Yeah, so I mean, one of the questions that I heard you ask was, what are some of the solutions? What can we do going forward? And so I mean, we can sit here and talk about our feelings and whatnot, but the fact of the matter is that there is no compassion. It's just competition. We talk about white and black, but one of the things that I repeat while I was out here on the East New York, you got ethnic white people out here. You know what I'm saying? It's not enough just to say white. You got Italians competing with Czechoslovakian. People from all over the place competing with each other, different communities. So we gotta focus on competing a little bit harder, man, with where we're going. And for those of us who do have, we got to learn how to partner up. You know, there's an African proverb that says, if you want to go fast, go alone. But if you want to go far, go together. And, you know, it don't take a huge community, you know what I'm saying, in order to be able to put together something in order to make a bond. As you know, not everybody's listening knows, you know, my folks, you know, been associated with Wolsey Community Church, you know, and Eliel Day is a school that, you know, I sing high praises for. You know what I'm saying? You got a youngster who you want to do something and want them to be educated in the ways of our history and our people and in the struggle, how they need to move forward. That's the institution that you can look to. One of the things that you talk about as far as how to get us going is to find things that we have in common. I mean, our skin is one thing, but we have interests as well. And all of us, you know, love our children and want to see the best done for our children. So we could just start by basically having, you know, I mean, church is important to us. We are spiritual people, you know, so that's, I mean, everything starts with God. You know, and if you can find a church, you know, who basically also too could be a school for you, you know, that could probably be the centerpiece for a community. I'm not talking about a whole city, you know, maybe it's only 500 people, you know what I'm saying, or 1,000 people, you know, but the catch is that we got to start focusing in on the education of our youth, and stop allowing other people to educate us and wonder why we don't have what we need in order to move forward. You know, even as Black people, we are basically recovering white supremacists because, you know, we've been taught the same nonsense that they've been spewing to us. You know what I'm saying? We've internalized that, and even if we ain't aware of it, we act on those things as well. So the first step is to educate the next generation and make sure that they get some real, you know, separation from some of the oppressive ideas, and allow us to begin to create, name, and define for ourselves what our future will truly be. So, you know, first we need to basically start, like I said, church, school. We need to focus, you guys were saying it a little bit earlier, on local elections. You know, most of us don't even know. Here in New York, the DA won with like 175,000 votes. It's 10 million people in New York. You know what I mean? The fact of the matter that you can win an election as a DA with less than like 1% of the population voting is insane, especially when that same DA, if there is a shooting, will be the one to decide if he needs to make charges, if he's going to be lazy with it and give it to the grand jury, when he knows he has all the power in order to basically say, I'm going to charge this police officer or whoever with murder or with, you know, manslaughter. So if we put more effort into electing some of these local officials, maybe they might feel accountable, you know, to what we need and serving our community if we're the ones who are actually putting them in office. You know, some of the other things too, that we have to focus in on is that we have to get control of our medical and dental. I don't care if it's nothing more than just a urgent care facility that we run and everybody goes through that particular, whatever it is. We need a doctor, a dentist, you know, so that our medical, you know, can be taken care of, and we don't have to wonder, you know, if these people are basically doing what's in our best interest.
Right.
You know, and then you know, and then last but not least, you know, we must get a hold of some type of whether it be a farm or a grocery store, something that where, you know, we a store that decides what they're gonna sell to us based upon what's the best needs of the people in that community, instead of selling us a whole bunch of, you know, cheap garbage that nobody really needs to be eating in the first place. You know, most of us live in neighborhoods where we have backyards where if you put all the backyards together on a city block, it would probably equal about an acre. You know what I'm saying? Or at least half a. You could grow all kind of produce on there. Most people's backyards are completely empty, have nothing in them. You know, so if we were creative in what we were doing, we might be able to have our own salvation right in these own cities. So listen, I don't profess to say I know the answers. This is just in my time here on this earth. These are some of the things that I see that if we could just get a hold of for just a few people, you know what I mean? Don't have to be a whole city, you know, don't have to be a whole state, even though we are a population of 42 million people in this country with an economy of $2 trillion. You know, so if we all decided that we wanted to move to a state like Maryland or something like that, we would literally have the whole state to ourselves. That way, all the sheriffs, whatever, everything would be us. You know, so if we could be a little bit more strategic too in the way we were doing things, you know, it might be of some benefit for us going forward. But that's it. It's about one something o'clock in the morning out here for me, man. I got to get up in about 5 hours, so I'm gonna end it there.
So D, D,
Love
D,
y'all, man.
D, we appreciate you. Don't hang up. We about to end this. We about to wrap this up. I want you to catch the end of this. So just hold tight. We really about to wrap up in about 5 minutes here. So just hold tight. But thank you for rocking, man. This all the way from New York all night. Classic. Look at me. I'm classic. That's how I use. I'm so fire. Anthony.
I've been called again AJ, Anthony, Big Ant, Classic, right, and a few different things. A man of many names. I didn't know you were coming back to me, and I'll try not to. I mean, at this point, we're all a little tired of, as well as tired. And so, yeah, I think what I'll do is a lot of these quotes that I have here from people, I think I'll make that maybe an intro to the next show.
Okay.
That we do in order to honor those of us who kind of need to, hard as that is for me, because I like to talk, and I was priding myself on taking really great notes, but overall, we're going to continue to support each other, to love each other, to be more understanding, and to move forward in a way that promotes the liberation of our people, which will thusly promote the liberation of others.
That's what's up. So, thank you so much. First off, I want to say thanks, Anthony, for assisting with hosting this. Amazing. Did a great job. I really appreciate you, because to host this and then manage the tech side could have been difficult. So I really appreciate you stepping in and doing that. I want to say thank you to everybody that came and stayed for 3 hours to discuss where we were at right now. And then I want to encourage you all, just know this: if you know me, I'm going to call you. If you showed up tonight and said you're going to do. One of the things people often ask, like, why I stay so even keel, why, even switch, because we're a makeup of who we're surrounded by in our experiences. And these are the people that I'm surrounded by. These are my experiences. So I get to interact with all of these voices all the time. And this is my makeup. And so I'm honored to be able to have this makeup connect and see what can happen. You know what I'm saying? If we really put this together. And so I'm really going to call on you all to lead conversations. That's what this show is about. It's not about me hosting and leading every show. It's about each of us stepping up and leading conversations. That's what this particular show is designed for. The platform and program is designed for, is for us to all to use our voices to lead the conversation, so that we can lead a conversation on finance. We can lead a conversation on educating the youth. We're all there's so many educators in here, so many people are teachers or all that, lead a conversation in every department and begin to start putting together something that really is sustainable. Because here's the thing, in my opinion, if you want influence, it's networks. And this right here, KCBZ, is our foundation of a network. And there are several networks out there, but here's one that we can build in our community and we can make it work, meaning not for selfish purposes, for our purposes. Tell people to tune in to your shows. Tell people to tune in to other people's shows. Tune in yourselves. Encourage people to support the station. Hey, send Aaron, to talk about finances. This stuff is not a free thing or a free platform to keep happening. Encourage people to sponsor, encourage people to give, continue to build, you know what I'm saying? And help us be able to sustain something. We've been here almost 2 years, two years almost. We've been on air, which is a blessing. You know what I mean? And we're continuing to grow. And there's a lot of voices. The honest truth is, out of the voices that were here tonight, that was probably only half of the voices that are on this station. So, and those that weren't able to make it tonight have that same amount of passion, drive, experience, power behind them. Like, you see what I'm saying? We only got to witness. Can you imagine that? Like, we only witnessed half of what's here in our midst, like right here, daily, weekly. This is a platform that we have. Only half was here. There's a whole nother 50% of that wasn't able to make it tonight for whatever reason and would have been here if they could have, So I just encourage you to really help build and support this thing here, because we can do something with this. So listeners, encourage others to listen. Listeners, tap in, give support, tell what you're thinking about, what you know, chime in. There's a button. What network station do you know that has a button on their page that says join the conversation?
KCBZ.
You can come you click the button and we'll let you in at some point. Now, we can kick you out too if you're not adding nothing to the pot, but we'll let you in. Like, that's really what we're about here. So this is your station. This is a free speech radio and your community station. So thank y'all, everybody that was here tonight, man. That's powerful voices. I'm inspired by you all. So
yeah,
thank you all. Thank you, Rashida. Thank you, Donald. Thank you, Fleet. Thank you, Kel. Thank you, Nat. Thank you, Arian. Thank you, Dion. Thank you, EDL, Will, everyone that was on deck. If I missed the name, forgive me.
Fleetwood.
My heart is there. Fleetwood. Julius, yes.
Randy.
Mark, who was it? Marcellus. Curtis was even in the building.
Marcellus. Yeah.
So wonderful. Paul, there we go. Wow. Nice. Paul was in the building. I didn't even see Paul. That's what's up. See? It's powerful. That's dope. That's dope. All right. So if you're listening, you don't have to tune out. We're about to check out, but there's still some good music that's going to be playing. You know what I mean? But we're going to take it out with this record right here, since we talked about being woke. You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
Until next time, you know what I mean? This is a conversation. Be waiting for my call, because I'm asking you all to lead something here. Appreciate you.
Are we still recording? Anybody? Oh.
Wake up, everybody, no more sleeping.